So we're going to talk about Warrick Dunn going into the Ring of Honor. What kind of player was Warrick?
Warrick was a hard-working player. He was a gritty, tough player who could, find ways to get first downs when you think he couldn't get one. And he was always seemed to amaze not only us but the fans and probably himself at times when he just made plays that you really didn't think a guy his size could make.
And as the quarterback out there on the field, how would you say you depended on Warrick?
Well, Warrick was always a good safety valve. He was always a guy who I could rely on. Probably didn't check the ball down to him enough, and that's in part my fault, and he was open a lot. But as a teammate, to be out on the field with him, to know you had that guy who could, take the ball and go, 70 yards with it on any play was a sense of comfort for me, and it also helped me out in the run game with my game and him being able to run the football effectively and take the pressure off us in the passing game as well.
Awesome. And what kind of teammate was Warrick, both in the locker room and on the field?
Warrick was he was one of our leaders, man, one of our unsung heroes. I know at the age of 22, and Warrick being a 5-6 year vet, 28 years old, I looked up to him as a role model. He was the type of guy that wouldn't allow me to do a lot of wrong, even though I did wrong. He was that big brother that I never had, and I remember where his locker used to be. I would always ask him for advice. He would always tell me things more than than the things that I wanted to hear. And I really respected that from Warrick, man. It wasn't easy in the beginning for us, and it was just a little brother, big brother fight all the time. And but when we touched that field, when it was time to go to war together, and when it was time for us to just, gel in a brotherhood, we was able to do that.
Awesome, man.
One sec, let me.
All good. So Warrick was a guy who kind of rose from adversity, his family issues and things like that, and he became an undersized guy, like you said. What do you think it is about Warrick Dunn internally, or his character, that made him so great?
I think when you look at his story and everything that it embodies, it showcases a guy who really had to grow up very early. A lot of responsibility was placed on him at a young age, and that forced him to mature a lot faster than most, and it's a burden that very few people can probably take on, and if it's any guy who can do it, it's him, and God chose the right person. So I think his character alone takes him a long way, and from now into eternity, he'll forever be remembered as a guy of great character and a great man for what he's been able to overcome, what he's been able to accomplish, and what he's been able to do, as a humanitarian in the community.
Awesome. And do you have any particular Warrick Dunn stories or anecdotes or advice he's given, any kind of?
I mean, I got some good stories about Warrick, but I don't want to put him in a bad situation. But I think he owed me about, maybe $1,000 from all of the Xboxes and the PlayStations he used to sell out his locker back in the day. Had to put you on blast, Warrick. I don't know how you was doing it, but you got it done. You still owe me some money, too.
And for the last part with Warrick, we'll just have you look into the cameras if you're talking to Warrick, and just congratulate him on his honor of being inducted into our Ring of Honor.
Warrick Dunn, congratulations on being inducted into the Ring of Honor. You're very deserving of it. It'll be a pleasure to be there in your presence on the day that you'll be glorified. And I want to thank the Atlanta Falcons for presenting you with this opportunity. Couldn't have picked a greater person, a better man. You'll always be a brother. You'll always be my big brother.
Excellent. That was awesome. All right, so now we'll switch gears to good old Morton Anderson here.
More.
First off, I'll just ask, a lot of times the kicker kind of gets underappreciated or underrated. How important is the kicker to you on the football team?
Very important. I mean, you rely on kickers for three. Sometimes the kicker got to win the game for you. Sometimes they make clutch kicks. Sometimes they miss some. We give them a hard time because we don't feel like they practice enough. But you have to think about it in the grand scheme of things. Kicking that ball between that maybe 20-foot radius is not easy. And, for a guy like Morton to do it as consistently as he did for years, really says a lot about his game and about his legacy.
Awesome. And now, being teammates with Morton Anderson for a short time and all that, what kind of teammate would you say Morton was?
Morton brought life to our locker room. Coming in, I think at the age of 47, I think I was maybe 25, 26 years old at the time, and I remember looking at him and saying, I watched this guy when I was growing up, and he was with the New Orleans Saints and banged every kick that he ever, attempted. It seemed like he was probably the best offensive weapon, I would say, but this guy was just, an amazing kicker. When we got him, distance-wise, long range wasn't his thing, but anything, 35, between 35 and 45 yards, you can assure yourself that we had 3 points.
Awesome. What did he mean to the Atlanta Falcons?
I think, didn't he play for the Falcons before?
Yeah, he did. He
He
played
was
twice.
with the Falcons.
He left and came back. Yep.
Okay. Well, I think what he means to the Atlanta Falcons is another great player who stepped into the locker room, played for this franchise, who's slowly ascending year in and year out. And, since Mr. Blank took over the team, the objective was to get the best players in here, the best character guys, men of integrity, and people who love the game of football. And I think when Morton came around, he walked into the locker room, it just showed that we was taking another step in that direction. They put the best players in the best positions, on the team who was trying to, accomplish something, that we knew we could accomplish.
Excellent. Well said, my friend. And here we'll just have you look into the camera and congratulate Morton on being inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame.
Morton Anderson, I want to congratulate you on being inducted into the Hall of Fame. You deserve it. You know you deserve it. More than anything, you're a great person, great individual. The words of encouragement that you always had for me, wasn't ideal from where I come from, and for you to be able to take me under your wing, even as a quarterback, help me out in so many situations mentally, and be able to talk me through a lot of things that I went through, really meant the world to me. Even though it was only a year and a half, you were a great friend. Once again, I want to congratulate you. Enjoy every minute of it with you and your family.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Thank
now,
you.
so I'm wrapped, but I know he has a few questions for you as well.
Yeah.